Hey guys, I figured it would be easier for me to do a screencast by video than try to do this live because, kids, they suck. There goes my cat. So I'll try to keep this as short as possible just so you guys aren't spending a ton of time on here. I do want to give you guys a couple of updates as well. I just got an email from the college board, and I think you guys probably got the same email, but we definitely are doing the 45-minute online exam, and it is 100% free response. So again, I don't know if that means short answer. I don't know if that means an LAQ or what. So we'll know more on that April 3rd. But they also had posted about the AP Classroom. I know we had gone and logged into AP Classroom like way early in the beginning of the year. You guys can go on there and they're updating with more free response and essays and all of that. So you guys can go ahead and head on in there, and I'll try to post some stuff as well. But they'll have a lot of different stuff on there, and I'm just going to continue with like the schedule that I've kind of created. If you guys haven't seen it already, I'll go ahead and over on Schoology. I have I have started a calendar. It's not perfect. It's definitely not complete, but my hope is that we won't be doing any testing or anything until the end of April. And so if my Schoology will actually work, um, what the hope is, let me close down that really quick. What the hope is this we get through an online two. It will be done by Friday. Sorry, it's kind of glitching a little bit because I'm trying to do this. And then, like, we'll spend 2 weeks on the other units or the other time periods. And, like, 1 week, we would really, spend a lot of time on, like, content, and then we'll be doing a lot of practice writing and stuff like that. So if you do go into the distance learning materials, then you guys can see the calendar that I've created. Holy moly, this is really slow. But there are 2 slides on there, so we are here, okay? I am not doing a live video, I'm doing a thing. And then hopefully you'll have this stuff due about by Friday. So if you look that there is these different color coordinated things, the blue stuff is, assignments that, work on them as you go, and then hopefully have them done by Friday. The green ones are whenever I'll be doing like a video, or if we do like a little virtual class. And then the red stuff is usually going to be stuff from your Princeton review, and then also working on the key terms. That's at the end of each chapter for your Princeton review. And for those of you that don't have a Princeton review, I'm working on copying all of my stuff from my Kindle over to like a Google. I'm not even gonna wait for this to come up, but over to a Google Doc. 1,000 doing this illegally, so do not like tell anybody. But if you guys don't have a Princeton review, I'm trying to get that all over in little chunks. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Mongols. I'm going to go over the Mongols. Out of this whole time period, like I think I don't know if they do SAQs, you'll definitely have one from this time period. But if it's just an LAQ, I can't see them having an LAQ in like units 1 or 2. Not that they're not important, it's just so many other things happen in other time periods. And so I would say big things that you would want to take away on this is definitely like religions is really big, and not specifically like what the religion is, but the impact of the religion. The trade routes are big, and then the Mongols, I think, would be kind of your big stuff. But I mean, if they did an SAQ, I would definitely they're gonna have one from this time period. I think actually they would probably do one from each time period, and you guys would rate 3 of them. But I don't know. I could totally be wrong, so don't take my word on that. But anyways, we are gonna go ahead and get going on the Mongols. I'm gonna hopefully try to keep this to like, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, if not less. So let me just kind of move myself, and hopefully it just doesn't take a whole long time to do this. Okay, so we're going to talk about how the Mongols, shaped our modern world. Super, super important. And I know everybody, oh, they're just this brutal, empire. Well, they're not. They actually did a heck of a lot more than just that. So let's talk about first, like why they are so powerful. Well, we know that they're nomadic. We know that they're gonna, follow their herds and be able to adapt to different environments and whatnot. And it's not that the Mongols were like not awesome in, their military, but a lot of times it was just kind of like good timing as well. A lot of times they're going into empires when they are already having some splintering, internally and just, some famines. And so they're going to walk in and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, we can't deal with this, and so the timing is definitely big. But when you are specifically talking about their military, they are definitely have better leadership, organization, and they're very, very disciplined. Like to the point of if you're in a battle and you're like you leave, like you retreat and you're not supposed to, then their entire division gets killed. So it's like extreme loyalty to the max. And so you don't want to be like that person because you're going to get killed and then you're going to get all of your people killed. So it's just they're very, very disciplined, and their leadership and loyalty is crazy. Also, when they're going to go in and conquer people, they're going to do a few different things if they don't get killed. Conscription, so they're going to basically implement the draft, and so you have to fight in the military, and if you say no, you die. And then also, like, this is going to help and overall like how much impact the Mongols had, which is they always like saved the skilled artisans and the craftsmen. Like they knew their value, and so they didn't want to like get rid of them. And so they would really save them. And also, like if they would go into a place and they would say, "Okay, you can surrender, or else." And if you surrendered, then you were saved. But if you said no, then they're not going to just kill you, but they're going to, do horrible things to your wife and children, and they're going to die as well. So, it was just that also that idea of the brutality, that they did have, because yes, they were brutal and they did massacre a lot of people, but it was also that reputation that when they did go in, it was like, okay, well, we have to surrender or else. So, that definitely helped them. So we're going to talk about China, Persia, and Russia. So let's talk about um, the Yuan dynasty. So let's talk about Mongols in China. And I know we've kind of talked about this before, but I just want to kind of go over this. I was looking in my notebook and I couldn't find where I had talked about this. I don't know if you guys just end up putting it in your notes or if it was something that we did. I don't know. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys had all of this. So the Yuan dynasty was a little bit different. Um, so what's going to happen is up in the north part up here, there's going to be a ton of destruction. Like they're going to go in and they're going to brutally massacre a bunch of people and whatnot. But when they go into the southern part, this is being ruled by the Song dynasty right now. And so, like, they don't want to go in and just completely like eliminate it because they understand that so much is happening coming in and out with the trade routes and everything in the Song dynasty. And so they don't want to completely like decimate everything. So they do want to preserve some of the order in the Song dynasty, but they don't like the Chinese at all. So they are not going to um, allow them to, keep ruling or be part of the administration or anything like that. But what they do is they would help with the loyalty. And so they would go to a lot of like these landowners and they go, hey, if you are loyal to us, then we'll let you keep your estates. Now, this is going to be bad later on because basically it's going to cause like divisions within China, which will be one of the reasons why the Mongols get pushed out. And then somehow they like get the Chinese to think that the Mongols are supposed to be there, and that whole mandate of heaven of like some powerful being from above is, giving you this right to rule. Like, I don't know if this was out of, just fear that if they didn't say that, then the Mongols were going to kill them. But somehow, like the Mongols were given this mandate of heaven, and so they were able just kind of go in and rule. Speaking of kind of what is going on once they are there, they did keep some of the Chinese practices. They did have taxation under Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan, the taxes are going to be lowered for some, but they're going to be raised for others. Another thing they're going to do is keep the postal service. They understand that communication is key, and so you don't get rid of something that works really well. So this talking about under Kublai Khan, Kublai Khan, oh my gosh, Kublai Khan, I can't talk. He is going to help some things. So he's gonna, build roads, build canals. He's gonna lower taxes for some, not for everybody. Support agriculture, and just really look at those skilled workers and those artisans, and just like revere them as highly, highly awesome. Now, if you guys remember, the merchants in China were like total low, low, low class. It was all you're doing is trying to, make money off of, me and whatnot. And actually, when the Mongols come in, it's actually going to help the merchant status because the Mongols understood that like merchants were huge and they are benefiting greatly off of merchants. They're going to tax them like crazy. But they're also going to provide protection for these, the trade routes. And so they're actually going to overpay merchants like by 10%. And so this is good for merchants, especially the merchants in China, because now the merchants are like becoming more wealthy and they're just getting more power and prestige. And so, it is definitely going to help them. But we do have some very harsh rule. If you guys remember, the Chinese are treated horribly. They are not allowed to rule at all. They have a very, very low administrative positions, but if they're having anybody help, it's going to be Muslims or foreigners. And so they're not allowing any Chinese to have these high positions. The Mongols are keeping those positions. And the Mongols are not going to become Chinese. They're not going to assimilate to the culture. They're not going to marry. They're not allowed to marry. I think that's the next one. The women don't have, because during the Song Dynasty, before they got taken over, the foot binding was huge. The Mongol women were not allowed to do foot binding, and intermarriage is not good. And they just still remained Mongol-like, like very they lived in their pastures, and that was their way of life. They didn't want to assimilate to any like Chinese lifestyle. Also going to ignore the civil service exam. Like I said, they're going to rely on those foreigners and those Muslims to rule. And then they discriminated against the Chinese, and they would create laws that were against the Chinese. So that is also creating that division um, and whatnot in China. I think I already talked about social, no intermarriage, no foot binding. So the fall of the Mongols, I talked a little bit about how there's going to be some internal struggles um, and definitely some internal fractioning that's going to go on within the Mongol administration. And that is basically going to cause them to um, like just kind of lose control, and the Chinese start to rise up. And then you have the Ming dynasty that comes in. Ming, once they come in, they become very, very highly centralized. And if you remember at the end of the Ming dynasty, that's when they're going to turn inward and become more isolated, but we'll talk about them in the next time period. Okay, so now let's talk about Persia. So we've got like modern day Middle East. All right, so the Mongols are the there's like a couple of different invasions that happen. The big one, the first one actually starts with Genghis Khan, and then the one that's like more significant is when there's the sack of Baghdad circa 1258. And this was a bloody, bloody massacre, like absolute decimation of people in Baghdad. And but the reason why this was like a good thing in the Mongols' eyes is now everybody's going to be loyal because they're afraid that the same thing is going to happen in Baghdad. Um, and so here, like unlike China, where they're going to Kublai Khan, oh my gosh, is going to lower taxes. You're going to have increased taxes, heavy, heavy taxes in Persia. Now, You're also going to have a lot of the agricultural land in Persia is going to turn to pasture land just because there's not a whole lot of it, just because of the location and the environment there. And so they are going to turn a lot of that land into pasture land. But the thing is you are going to see assimilation that's going to happen a lot more in Persia. And so that pasture land isn't going to be as prevalent later during the Mongol rule because they're going to basically become Persian. Wine production is going to increase a lot because the Mongols love their wine. And so you are going to have that. Also, the silk production is going to increase as well because of that connection with China and China bringing the silk, westward. And so they're going to bring in also those techniques and whatnot. And so the silk production, Persia is really going to start producing silk and not just having it come from the Chinese. All right, administration. This is where it's different. So China, they were not allowing any Chinese to do anything. Like they can't be in any administrative positions. They in Persia, they are going to leave it in the Persian hands and just kind of like, oh, just do what you can and do what we want, but you guys just keep going. And in fact, they're going to learn a lot of the language and the culture and traditions and whatnot. They're going to convert to Islam, and they're going to marry the locals. Like it's complete opposite of what it was in China. And so basically what happens is when the Mongol Empire like officially falls, they just kind of like, oh well, it's not a big deal. I'm already like married to, a woman here and I already have a family and I've already converted and I already have all these, cultures and traditions. So whatever. Like they literally just kind of like flute away and just kind of become part of society. Um, now, you are going to have a guy, his name's Timur. He is going to try to rebuild the Mongol Empire, and everybody's like, "Meh, I'm good. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. I don't need this empire." And so he's going to like utterly fail. And then there's going to be some like divisions and there's going to be like no unification in Persia. And then the Safavids come in. And then the Safavids are going to unite them all. And that's, if you guys remember, that's the gunpowder, one of the gunpowder empires. And so you're going to have the Safavids in the middle. And you're going to have the Ottomans in like modern day Turkey. And then you'll have the Mughals in modern day India. So, and the Safavids, it's going to be a big thing because the Safavids are Shia and Shiite Muslim, and then they're going to be surrounded by two Sunni Muslim empires. And so there's going to be a lot of tension with those, which we'll talk about the gunpowder empires next time period. And then last, Russia and the Mongols. So kind of like I'm just gonna move myself up there. Kind of like Persia, you're gonna have this huge massacre, just like Baghdad, that's gonna happen in Russia. And in fact, they're gonna like decimate a few cities, and they're gonna use a lot of these weapons that they're gonna get from the Chinese and the Persians, and all of a sudden, like incorporate like these catapults and just like major weapons that can do a lot of destruction. And so your initial conquest in Russia is horrible. And it's like they completely decimate. And so then you have that again, that loyalty happens because everybody's afraid of it. Russia, like think about Russia. It's so vast and like the Mongols are so happy because there's so much pasture land. And so they can remain being Mongols. They can remain being very nomadic and just kind of like do whatever. And so they would actually leave like Russians just kind of, as long as you're doing what we want you to do, we're good. And so they're not going to occupy Russia at all. All they're going to do is just like have the prince just pay me tributes. Like, just give me some money and give me some treasures and goods and whatnot, and then we'll be fine. And so they would still hold these like little raids on the outside of like on the outer parts of Russia, and so just to get some goods and also some money and stuff like that. Um, and you're gonna have a lot of the nobility that is going to help with this, and so they're actually gonna like share the treasures with the Mongols. Just like Persia, they're gonna have heavy taxes as well, and it's really gonna create this unequal society because the peasants are the ones that are having those heavy taxes and those burdens, and so they're not able to kind of keep up with that. But the nobility is like, I am thriving right now because, I'm loyal to you and I'm helping you with your raids. And so I'm just beginning, becoming more and more wealthy. Um, Oh, there was something else I forgot. If I can think about it, I'll let you know. Fall was the plague, and that's is with the rise of Moscow. So what's going to happen is you're going to have cities that are going to like pledge their loyalty to the Mongols, but then like secretly be building up their army and their military and try to like eventually take them down, which is exactly what happened in Moscow. Um, you had Moscow become such a huge city and become such like a major part of society in Russia that they once like they saw this division starting with the Mongols, they were able to like go in and just like seize control. And the Mongols at that point were like, like whatever, we're not even really doing anything here anyways. Because they didn't really see Russia as like being that big. Like, you don't have any goods that I really want. You're not that wealthy. There isn't, a good trade route because you are so far north. And so they just didn't really think that they were that special and like that valuable. And so they're not going to put a whole lot of attention to it. And then let's just talk about just the Mongol Empire in general. Like, how are they going to help trade? They're not really active, like trade people. They're not merchants. They're not really going out to do that. But what they are going to do is they're going to tax the merchants, and they're going to say, "Hey, I'm going to tax you, but I will also provide protection for you." And like I said before, they're going to pay their merchants more. And so what that's going to do is it's going to like now like merchants are going to want to go through these Mongol protected cities because they know they're going to get more money for their goods and they're going to be protected. Yes, they're going to get taxed, but in like it all works out where they are becoming more wealthy. The Mongols are also going to standardize weights and measures, which is going to help trade immensely from east to west. Financial backing, they are going to create these like little administrations and little organizations that it's like a little merchant organization, and they're all going to help each other out. And they're going to say, okay, I'm going to provide loans for you guys, and I'm going to provide like, hey, here are a group of Mongols that are going to travel with you, and just make sure you're all protected and whatnot. And so it definitely created just like this sense of unity among the merchants. Lots of cultural exchange that's going on. Cultural diffusion is huge during this time because you're having all of these different empires and different people that are now like coming together. And so you're going to have like techniques from China are going to be painted in these Persian paintings. And like there's so much cultural diffusion going on. It is crazy, crazy. And then just like movement of people too. Like because they're sparing the skilled, then they're going to go like, hey, you skilled worker, I want you to go over to this place and I want you to help them here. And so you have this movement of all these like skilled artisans and these workers and whatnot. Religious toleration was huge. They like didn't they didn't really care. Like, oh, just do whatever you want, just don't hurt us. Like otherwise we're going to kill you. And so what that's going to do is it's going to kind of help create like these big metropolitan areas and cities and just kind of like unify everybody. And then just movement of goods like crops and plants and like so much stuff is going to be coming over from China, like the compass and gunpowder and or some other things I can't remember. I know like lemons are going over to China. I wrote them down somewhere. But I didn't put them in here. Hang on, bear with me. Um, ooh, painting, printing, gunpowder, weapons, compass, high temp furniture, medical techniques. Those were all coming from China and going westward. And then eastward were plants and crops. And then in all, like Europe probably gained the most from this just because they're like all the way eastward, or excuse me, all the way westward. And China was creating a lot of the new techniques, and they didn't have a great connection with them and like so far away. So now that you have this increase and you have more Chinese people moving westward, then they're able to get a lot of those new ideas. So it was kind of, a really, really big thing. And then the plague happened and, killed everybody. So, hey, a pandemic, we know what that is. Ooh. Um, hopefully half our population does not die. Let's stay inside, people. Stay inside. But the plague happens, and it's basically just going to wipe out all the empires, like Mongol empires and whatnot, and Khanates. Also, it's going to create this major labor shortage, and we'll talk a little bit more about the plague next time period, but it's going to cause labor shortage. And so now you have serfdom, especially in Western Europe, that's going to die because guess what? All your people are dying and there's a labor shortage. And so now all these peasants can demand to be paid more and treated better. So it's better. But okay. So I hope that helped you guys. I hope that was just a quick enough thing. Sorry if I kind of rambled a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and hold some office hours tomorrow. I don't know what time, but I'll post them on Schoology just in case you guys have some questions. You can pop in on the Zoom meeting and or just say hi because I miss you guys. But if you guys have any questions, just email me or write them on like the Schoology update or whatnot. Oh, the hiccups. Awesome. But okay, you guys have a wonderful one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.